Hello, Empowered Warriors. Welcome to episode 24. I am so excited about this episode because in this episode, I bring in one of my very good friends, Padma Ali, who is an amazing coach for high achievers. And we just have this amazing, aligned, flowy, juicy conversation where we talk about everything, conscious parenting and living your best life and being the change. And I'm so excited to have this episode today. So if you're somebody who is familiar with Padma, or maybe you don't know Padma yet, this is an amazing episode to listen to because you will probably notice that you will fall in love with her just by listening to her voice. So stay tuned. Welcome to the Empowered Warrior Podcast. My name is Angela Noel, and I am an intuitive coach, acupuncturist, and Chinese herbalist. This podcast is all about empowerment, meaning how you can maintain your personal power in order to have the best life beyond your imagination. An empowered warrior is someone who has the identity of a person who is healthy, radiant, and free from all suffering, and has the tools ready and available to move through life's obstacles with confidence, ease, and a sense of freedom. In this podcast, I bring over 16 years experience in Chinese medicine, countless years of self-development, and a passion for helping others find their personal power. I will be discussing just a few of my favorite topics regarding health from a Chinese medicine perspective, brain habits, and spirituality, so that you can quickly pave your pathway to freedom and be free from the chains that have kept you stuck. My intention with this podcast is to serve as a guide for warriors who want to form a healthy foundation of body, mind, and spirit, and sustain it by changing who they are being from the inside and having a stronger connection to their higher selves. My goal is to help students end the unnecessary suffering that they place on themselves by having poor health habits, negative thought loops, and a lack of self-worth. I'm so happy that you're here. Hello, Empowered Warriors. Welcome. Today, I'm really excited because I have another very special guest, my good friend, my soul sister, another soul sister who I feel like from the day we met, we've known each other forever, it seems. So I'd like you to meet my very special friend, Padma Ali. Yay, Padma, welcome.
Hi, Angela. Thank you so much for having me. This is such a treat.
Oh my gosh, I'm feeling so lucky to have you here, and equally a treat, if not more, for me.
Yes, same here.
Yay! So Padma, I'd love for you to just tell me a little bit about who you are, how you help people, and anything else you'd like to include.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for, first of all, having me here. I'm so excited to serve your people in the best way, whatever needs to come through today. And like before we were talking, before we started this podcast, the recording, it was like, wow, this is so exciting. We've journeyed together for so long, and to have both of us together and to let the divine speak through us feels I feel a lot of grace.
That's really well said and so beautifully stated. I feel I couldn't agree with you more, Padma. I mean, we really have journeyed together, like parallelly for, how old is Anaya?
She is 3, almost 4.
Almost 4. So you were pregnant, I think newly pregnant with her when we met.
Yeah, it's been a while. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's crazy. I love it. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here too. So I help purpose-driven leaders unlock their highest potential so they can evolve their career and their life. So I bring in neuropsychology, which is my background, and then energy healing and wisdom. So these are how I impact my clients. And it's such an amazing journey because I learn so much from my clients as much as they learn from me. And so it's this amazing, I grow with them, and it's pretty fascinating to see that parallel happen even with them.
Mm. I love how you said that you are not only are they learning from you, but you are learning from them because that is true. There is this synergy that happens when we work with our clients, that when it's the right alignment, when it's the right partnership, because that is what it is. Would you
Yes,
agree? It's a partnership where yes, we are their guide, we are their teacher, we are their leader, but there's this reciprocity, I think, or this exchange that goes on when we work so almost intimately, right, with these individuals.
yeah, yeah. It's so true. Like even today, I was talking to a potential client, and one of the things that she was asking me how I do this work, and I said, I'm no better than you are. Yes, I'm here to guide you with my knowledge and wisdom and whatever needs to come through me. But most of all, it's about locking arms with you and walking side by side with you to help you discover who you are. Because the
Mm,
more we learn about ourselves and the more we know who we are, the more we can impact the world. And the people who come to work with me are they impact a lot of people in their lives. So it's
mm.
so when they can see shine their light, it allows the people who they work with to shine their light.
That's so true. It's like the ripple effect, right? That we hear so many people talking about. So, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I really appreciate you bringing that up because in the Empowered Warrior podcast, that is one thing that I talk about a lot. It's almost like it's this responsibility that we have as human beings living in this world to shine our light so that we can help others become better. So it's not a matter of how many clients we get or how even how much money we're making. In the end, it's who can I help and
Right.
how can I serve humanity.
Right. Yeah. You said it so beautifully. I know that those are some of the things that we share as values.
Yeah, yeah, that's why
Service.
we're so
Service.
such good friends, right?
I
Sorry to
know.
interrupt you.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's one of the values we share, which is service. Yeah.
Yeah, such an important one. And I'm glad that this is actually and Padma and I, just so you warriors in the audience know, we have a loose outline of what we're going to talk about, but we don't have anything planned. So, in talking about service and giving, I'm just curious to know what your thoughts are about how that relates to business and the success that you've had maybe when looking at where you've come from, and if you want to share anything about where you've come from career wise to where you are now, how has that idea of service helped elevate you to be where you're at today?
That's such a good question. I think service has grown on me, honestly speaking, because my background is in psychotherapy. I was a psychotherapist. I still am one. I don't know why I always say I was, but it's no longer my identity, so it's hard to relate to that. But that's what I did for so many years, 15, 17 years, like that's all I did. And as a therapist, like my goal was to help people. But I truly understood the word service only after I pivoted and just said, okay, I'm only doing coaching because the level of service, I don't know, it just felt very different because I was reaching people and my clients from different, I was not restricted just by geographic location or what my therapy license I could do. So, but the true nature of service really came through after I embraced my gifts.
Mm,
And that service, it's one of my core values of how I show up. And like you said, you beautifully named it. It's not about money you make. It's not about how many clients you have. It's got nothing to do with that. It's about just showing up and being available 100% for that one person. That's it.
Hmm. Just that one person, right?
Yep.
If you can impact one life in your whole lifetime, that's the way I feel, as one person at a time.
Yes.
Because that one, like you said, that one person is might affect another person or two people, and it just goes down in that ripple. And I personally feel that we exist in the most amazing times. I don't know if other people from other generations or thousands of years ago felt the same way, but I feel like we have so much opportunity, even in 2020,
Right.
with all the stuff, as you know. I don't really like to go into that on this podcast, but there's a lot that people are dealing with. But the other side of it is there's this beauty that's come out as a result of what's happened in 2020. And I think I'm seeing many, many, many more people get into alignment.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so beautifully said because what I notice, unless we, well, this is not always true, but mostly true when we hit rock bottom, when we're struggling, when we're suffering, that's when we even look for a window or a door. Otherwise, most of us, people in general, like we're just going through life. I was just thinking about it the other day. I'm like, how on earth have I become 44 years old? Like, where did life go?
Mm,
And
yeah,
like how fast the days pass into months and months into years, and so quickly it just transitions. Like the time is the only limited commodity, so it goes by very fast.
yeah.
And without alignment, without that intention, your life will just pass you by.
You just said so many nuggets. So, what I heard you say, you mentioned your life went by very quickly. And then you mentioned something else that I was like, oh, and I am taking notes. So, if you see me looking down, it's not because I'm looking away from you. So, I want to make sure I get these nuggets down. So, to your point about life is short, it's a cliche, right? But I do think that there are cliches that are cliches for a reason because they're really damn good cliches. Because as you already know, Padma, as I know, and as so many warriors who listen already know, life is short and we're going to be gone soon. We have the same mentor who was telling us last week, we're going to leave this planet. We don't know when, but even if it's 60 years from now, it's a short time in
Yes.
the timeline of human history. So I guess my question for you is, how do you navigate through that ideal, both with in going through your day-to-day life? Now I know you're a mom of two children,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing children, and an amazing coach who helps these people. I'm just curious to know if you could shed some light on your process of how you navigate that, both personally and when working with people and working even with your kids.
Yeah, that's such a good question. By the way, they've been asking about you. We were on the way somewhere towards you or where you live, and they're like, I want to see Angela Auntie.
Oh, I want to see them too. I love them so much.
And they're like, where's Ayla? I want to see Ayla. I want to see Angela Auntie. I was like, all right, we'll set a date. Don't worry about it. Oh, this is what they said. They said, I haven't seen Angela Auntie in a long time. Every time we go on route, like on the way there, so they're like, oh, we haven't seen her in a long time.
That's so cute that they make that association with the even down to the road.
Yes, that's
Oh,
their clue. That's their cue for connecting with you and with Ayla. So it's really cute and funny and sweet at the same time.
oh, that is really sweet. Yeah, we have to go get some ice cream and go on our hikes again soon.
You'll get a kick out of this. I know we're totally digressing, but
I
hey,
love it.
this is life. We were passing by that same ice cream shop and they were like telling Assad, like, this is where we eat ice cream with Angela Auntie and with Ayla. I was like, oh my God, like you guys, like, how do you know direction and places? They're so bright, right? I mean, like, that's the most amazing part. Like children just know. But that's how we all come, right? This is our template. And
Yeah.
how quickly we forget.
Yeah.
as we grow older, like how that innocence is lost and how we stop looking at life with wonderment and we stop looking at ice cream shops and going, yes, ice cream, right?
Best thing
Celebrating
ever.
every minute. It's really amazing. So
Yeah.
your question about like how do I live day to day, every minute, like personally, so let me start with just how I live. It's a commitment, and I have to make that commitment with integrity. And I'm just going to show you, I have a sticky note. I have sticky notes all over my house and pretty much specifically on my laptop, where I write down how I want to show up every single day. And it's a matter of choice. It's like
Mhm.
choosing every minute how I want to show up, how I want to be, how I want to live. And it is really, it comes down to minute by minute by minute and making that pivot tiny amounts.
Mm,
And like I say to my clients, like I'm no different than you are, maybe a few steps ahead on this path, but it all comes down to the same thing about what choice do I want to make in this moment.
mhm.
I lose it at times and I come back to center. I go off the track and then I come back on track. And that's something I work with my clients with. It's not really about like, oh, I failed today by making this choice. It's about how quickly can I get back on the horse. It's
Mhm.
never a failure. There are
Yeah.
no failures in life. There are no mistakes. It's only course corrections. And so you just course correct and get back on track.
That is, I love that so much because that's true, right? I've actually heard, I don't remember who the inspirational teachers were. Maybe it's Sarah Blakely from Spanx, but I feel like this is kind of a thing with really highly successful entrepreneurs, people in the world. They get together, they sit around the table with their kids, and they say, how did you fail today?
Mhm.
How did you fail today? And they talk about it with their children and they celebrate those failures because, like you said, it's not failure, it's course correction. And in those course corrections, we have this opportunity for amazing lessons to elevate into next level. Because let's face it, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it and life would be boring,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
are we here? Why are we here?
Yeah. And what's really interesting to me is also watching my children and how quickly we form beliefs. I see that, and I think I'm raising my kids very consciously, but I see already how beliefs are formed, what stories they're carrying. And talking about failure, he loves doing Khan Academy. It's his favorite pastime. Of course it
Oh
is.
my
Like, he
gosh.
loves Khan Academy. But anytime he hits a question that he doesn't know the answer for, he will ask for the right answer because he wants to get that right answer. He won't make a mistake. Like he's only like not even 7, but he's already like how the world trains you, right? The indoctrination, like you can't fail, like you can't make a mistake.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I am not giving you the answer. You figure it out. And if you don't know, it's okay to get whatever, however they rank that the answers.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting. Like, so these are what I've been sitting with, and I've shared this with you offline, like how stories, like what stories we live our life from.
Yeah.
So if he continues to be like, I can't make a mistake, what will his life look like?
Right.
He won't take risks. But this is how we all program ourselves.
Yeah, it's so indoctrinated. And you just, again, drop so many little bombs here. So, where do I begin? First of all, I just want to mention I just found out about Khan Academy like 10 days ago because my husband and I were talking, we were camping out in nature, and I have just been expressing to him my interest in space.
Uh-huh.
And we get talking, we kind of like start riffing on like nerd stuff because he's very left brain analytical and I'm interested in this. So it's a way that we connect with each other. And he's like, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, there's this, you should check out Khan Academy. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm just learning about it. But for anybody in the audience that knows, I don't know if this is this like a big thing? Is it like a well known thing? Because I just found out about it.
It's a free, the most amazing piece. This guy, Salman Khan, he founded Khan Academy, and it's free.
It's totally free, right?
Free, yeah. And so my husband and I donate to Khan Academy because they help impoverished children have access to knowledge like this. So it's our way of supporting kids because this is, I mean, it's brilliantly done, so brilliant.
Yeah.
And it challenges him, and this is his pastime. Math and me are like, eh.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
I,
loves math.
I love that. So, any warriors out there who have never heard of Khan Academy, and I think it's all ages, right? It's not
It's
just for
all ages.
kids.
And not just math, by the way, not just math. It's like
It's
all
math and
subjects.
science, right? And yeah, so if anybody wants to sharpen their brain skills, because as you probably already know, that keeping your brain nice and strong is part of our vitality, part of our health. And I talk so much about health and well-being in addition to brain habits, but keeping that actual physical brain strong. So again, so happy you brought that up. And I would just love to circle back to your kids if I can and talk to you about what you said specifically about how we're born. We're all born innocent, we're born open,
Yeah,
we're born expansive.
right.
And then by the age of, what is it, 7, Padma?
Yeah, 7 or 8. Yeah.
Yeah. We've been programmed, we've been indoctrinated. And you talked about how your son is already afraid to not get something right because of the messaging where it comes from, schools,
Everywhere.
everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Just hearing people talk on the streets like, oh, I did it wrong.
Yeah. And simple things like he used to love wearing dresses and dance. And
Hmm.
now he's like, no, I won't wear dresses anymore, even though he loves dancing and he loves those shiny, sparkly, like, frilly dresses. He
Yeah.
won't anymore because he's like, no, that's for girls. I'm like, who told you that? And
Yeah.
that's where I get very like, wow, I have never given him those, or my daughter. She's like very much into just girly stuff. Till she was like 2, I didn't even have girl toys because I only had a boy by then. And till then, the reason I even brought it up is how deeply ingrained these indoctrinations are that we're not even consciously aware of.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not it's not about the kids per se, it's more about what are we living by as adults.
Yeah. What stories are we still carrying with us is what I'm hearing you saying, right?
Yeah.
That that we on a conscious level don't even realize we're carrying with us until really it starts when we make that choice. And you had mentioned choice and commitment, right?
Yeah.
And making a decision every single minute. I absolutely love that you said that because it is a choice. It is a choice to decide that, hey, I'm going to get uncomfortable today and do this work, even though it's painful, even though it's the full moon. Oh my God, don't even get me started on that full moon last week. The October 1st, 2020 full moon was hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But what that does is that energy, or however you want to interpret it, those hard emotions, hardness, things that we interpret as hard, if we just remain steady through the storm, those stories that you talked about just peel away layer by layer by layer, right?
Yes. Yeah, but what you said is so vital. It's about being okay with the discomfort, which is where most people don't.
Most people are not comfortable being uncomfortable. And James, I know there's other people that say this besides James Wedmore, but he often says this on his podcast. People don't want to change. Like they say they want the results, they want to be that point B of change, but they're not necessarily willing to do that hard stuff, that minute by minute choice that you talk about,
Yeah.
and being committed to that.
Yeah. I'm smiling because in my questionnaire, I have a pre-call questionnaire for people to fill out before they sign up, before we schedule a discovery call. And in that, I have a question about how committed are you to transformation? And you will be surprised at how many people write like, 8 or 9. And then they also write this sentence right after that saying, I am scared of change. I don't know how much I'm going to be slow with the changes. Like they've already predetermined that they're going to be slow with change, or like they can't, I don't know how comfortable I am with change. I was like, wow, okay, that says immediately, I'm like, okay, but this is human brain. It's not about anybody in particular, but it's about how the human brain works.
Hmm. And I'm just curious from your area of expertise in psychology. Do you have any insight as to what causes that? What causes people to be so just hardcore? For those that are more, they want to know the steps and the analytical aspect. Why is that, do you think?
So it comes down to how the brain functions. The brain's only job, or the reptilian part of the brain, the amygdala, which is the storehouse of emotion. I'm going to get technical with you guys for just a few
Bring it.
minutes.
Bring it.
That the only job of that part of your brain is to keep you safe and survive.
Hmm.
And the brain is still so programmed to be like, is this going to see? And we've forgotten that we don't live in places, like whoever's listening to the podcast, mostly they're in the first world countries, so you're not exposed to that kind of danger, but the brain is still programmed to think you're in danger. So anyone rejects you, it's not familiar, it goes into firing those neurons, which say, all right, ready for those emotions, come on, let's get those emotions out, let's get the same pattern of behavior out.
Hmm.
And it's about, I teach this to my clients, like about changing those neural pathways, like shift patterns, because we have to break those old patterns.
Yeah.
Because if you don't break those patterns, you're going to continue repeating how you show up every day.
Exactly. We're always going to be working from this place of, well, my grandma did this. My grandma used to say this, hence it's still true even though it's 40 years later, right?
Right.
We will continue to repeat past experiences unless we break that pattern.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so deep. That's the hardest piece for most people. It's like, and not giving up, because despite having done this work for so many years on myself and working, like I fall back. I'm like,
Mhm.
where does this story come from? Where does this,
Yeah.
why am I, and I shared this like recently on Instagram, where I got annoyed with my kids and they called me on it. Like, oh my God, like how,
I think I saw that, right? Your son was like, Mama.
why are you getting, yeah, it was all, yeah, he was like, why are you acting this way? Is exactly where his exact words.
Yeah.
And I worked on, it's amazing to see how deeply ingrained these pathways are.
Yeah.
Because I went into overwhelm mode, which is one of my stories and one of my trigger points. I was like, they were overwhelming me. And then I get angry. And that's the pattern, like
Yeah.
overwhelm, anger. And then I'm like, all right. And this may be very useful for a lot of your listeners. It's not all of you that's overwhelmed. If you struggle with overwhelm, for example, it's a part of you. And usually that part of you is connected with life experiences from the past. And if
Yeah.
you can identify what part of you has that life experience, it'll really help move it. Because for most people, anytime we don't feel like ourselves and there's a part of us that's activated, it's usually a younger part. For me, for example, like the overwhelmed part is like a 5-year-old.
Hmm.
Now imagine a 5-year-old trying to run a house, cook dinner, and take care of 2 kids. But
Yeah.
that's the level of emotional maturity that that part of me has. And of
Yeah.
course, she's going to behave like a 5-year-old,
Yeah.
lashing out and throwing tantrums and like lying on the floor and crying, right?
Yeah.
If I had a physical manifestation of how I was feeling, that's how it would come out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad we're talking about this because I think it's so important to realize that for those of us that are struggling with something, whether it be anxiety, and as long as it's not like a severe clinical issue, of course you want to get the help that you need whenever you need it. But when we are as humans struggle with something that's difficult, it's good to remember that we are not that. I've been practicing acupuncture for 12 years now. And one thing that I mean, it was the norm when I started to hear people talk about my anxiety, right? I hear that all the time. My anxiety is flaring up. My depression is flaring up. Okay. Is it do you own it? Are you that anxiety? Is your whole being that
Right.
anxiety? Do you own that anxiety? And what kind of messages are you sending to your subconscious by saying, my this, my whatever, you fill in the blank, like less than desirable situation?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the word parts has been so helpful for my clients too, then, because it feels less personal. And then also it gives you a little bit separation. You can work with that part of you. Whereas if it's like, I am, whole of me is overwhelmed, you can't, it's very hard to work with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so overwhelming to even imagine that. And that is, again, going back to indoctrination and going back to story,
Right.
right? Like somehow we've managed to attach us, our ego, our human, to these conditions when it's just part of us, and it's just something that is not, it's not our whole being.
Right.
So I love that you're talking about parts. What is the formal name for parts therapy?
It's called internal family systems.
Internal family systems. Yeah.
But I believe even NLP has part work. I
Oh, I
found
didn't.
that out recently when I was starting to study NLP, but I didn't know that. But I learned it from internal family systems therapy model.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very
That's
fascinating.
so great. Yeah. So effective in really making breakthroughs without necessarily going into, well, when I was 4 years old, my mom did this, right? Yeah, I love it. I have to say, Padma, I have to really honor you and just recognize you for the way, this very special way that you're helping people,
Thank
because
you.
I've seen you grow so much from, when we met 4.5 years ago to
Yeah.
now, and you were just on fire.
Oh, thank you.
I
Thank you for
know.
recognizing and hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just so, your energy has shifted so much, and I can see how you are helping and making that impact in the world to help humanity. Because let's face it, in order for the world to change, by us putting these expectations, this might end up being more of a um, soapbox than I want. But I just see, and I feel like we're on the same page because we talk about society a lot and kind of how effed up it is. But I'm seeing so much stuff, and I actually hid my feed on Facebook because I just don't want to see it during election season. But we have these expectations. We want so and so, without mentioning names, to do this and to do that. And why are people doing this? And why aren't people doing that? Without any mind to look within ourselves.
Yeah.
It's so easy to just point that finger and say, you're wrong, I'm right. And what I love about the work that you're doing and the work that I do too is that we focus on, and even when I had my acupuncture practice, that's why I'm coaching, because acupuncture alone wasn't enough.
Right.
To get to that, those stories and those deeper layers, and to do that inner work so that when we come out, we know that we can be part of the solution and not part of the problem, and not the finger pointer, not the victim. And that is one reason why I find living in 2020 to be like the most exciting time ever.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is, like we started this whole podcast episode with, till we are faced with challenges, the human mind will not let you look at yourself. And even then, it's a choice that people make. And when they make that choice, oh my goodness, what freedom, right? Like that's what you help people get to, this place of freedom,
Yeah,
until they look
exactly.
at themselves and go, okay, what can I shift within me?
Yeah.
Didn't our mentor say, in order to change the world, we need to stop the world, and stop the world, we need to change ourselves. And when we change ourselves, it will change the world.
Yes. I think that's, you pretty much said it. That's right on. Yeah. So such a beautiful quote, and it's so simple. And every time he says it, I'm like, yes. And then here we are talking about it. I'm like, what was that again? But it's a good reminder that it starts with us. And I really feel that in my heart that we're on a really positive trajectory right now. And I really want to impart that to my warriors, because if you go online or if you go on TV or wherever you get your information from, that's not the messaging.
Right.
But I feel like as a result of this conversation, for those listening, There is so many silver linings if you choose to find them.
Yeah. Yeah. If you choose, that's the key.
And life is choice.
Life is choice. Sometimes I even look at it from a place of wow, it's divine grace to even know that you have a choice. And then it's even more grace to know like, oh, I can make that choice.
Hmm.
Like allowing is the word that always comes through. It's like allowing that to happen because we all have access to that.
Every
Every
single
one
one
of
of us.
us.
Every single one of us. And I mean, I know there might be people listening who say, but, but I have 10 kids and but I live in housing or whatever your circumstances are. But there's always the ability to choose. And I'm immediately thinking of the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, right? Like,
Yeah.
talk about the power of the mind. And it's such an old book at this point.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if he didn't get bogged down by his circumstances, which was life or death,
Dire.
right? Yeah. Yeah. How
Yeah.
can we even say anything about it? He still made a choice at that point.
Yeah. I just want to add one last thought to this because you were talking about choice, and choice is, you mentioned minute by minute. And I want to impart to my warriors that if you mess up, you can choose again. So there
Hmm.
might be days where, I mean, there are days where I am choosing again, like, I don't know, like it's my job. And
Right.
sometimes that choice might be like, I'm going to choose to lay down and take a nap because that is what I need right now.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
choosing to take the afternoon off and spend it with my children or make myself a really nutritious salad because that's what's going to nourish me right now. It is okay that I'm having some emotions because I'm a human being.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said there, Angela. It's not really about always taking actions in the physical form, but sometimes it's about like just slowing down. It's about nurturing and nourishing your soul and body and whatever that looks like.
Yeah, exactly. Because in order to, I mean, many successful people know this too, right? Oprah, I feel like she's like a big proponent of this. Like,
Yeah.
I got my boundaries. I need X, Y, and Z, and nobody's going to get in the way of that, no matter what. And
Yeah.
she's really open about that, and that's one of my coaches, my very first business coach. I think Anna. She said, like, Angela, be like Oprah. Be like
Right.
Oprah. And sometimes I just bring her in, when I'm feeling like, oh, I need a little bit of, something, something. What would Oprah do? So, well, Padma, this has been such an amazing, eye opening conversation. And I know that you'll help so many people when they
Thank
hear
you.
you talk about how you help people and how you help your clients and just your whole story from where you came from as a practicing therapist to being a mom and how you navigate through the day to day and have this thriving business. And I feel like you're the living embodiment of what is possible for people who feel that they can't have that. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I feel the same about you. I love what you're doing in the world and the impact you're making.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We're on this together.
I know. I'm so glad. Oh my God. Life is so much better when you have a soul sister walking next to you. I
Oh,
tell you that.
locking arms, sister,
Yes,
every day. I think we talk to each other every single day,
I know. For the
maybe
last, God knows, like 2 years now,
at
3 years.
least.
Yeah.
At least
I joke. I talk to you more than I talk to my husband.
guilty. um, so I would love to know if there's any pearls of wisdom, takeaways that you'd love to share with the audience today for how they can be an empowered warrior. We'll start with that, and then I have a couple more questions for you.
So I think going back to where we started, like making a choice every minute and not, and if something didn't work out, like, okay, get back on the horse, go back again, get back and do what you started to do. That feels to me like the biggest key to how someone can make shifts, because isn't there research that shows that if a plane flies like 1 degree off course, it'll land the plane like 500 miles away from its destination or something like that. I'm totally butchering up the facts, but everybody gets the point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with that, like even those tiny change happens incrementally. It's not like this one day you wake up and everything is poof gone.
Yeah.
So these small changes. So that's the biggest takeaway I want all the warriors listening to know.
I love that. Very true. Very true. And it really is just about taking one step and putting it in front of another, even if you don't want to. Just a little micro movement can do so much in a year, right?
Right. Exactly.
It
That tiny
compounds
step.
that. One little step at a time. And I would love for you all to think about and consider, where will you be in a year from now if you choose not to do those baby steps, even if they're hard? If you want to have that dream life, if you want to have, I always say banging body, but where will you be in a year from now if you want to if you choose to stay comfortable or just get a little bit uncomfortable, even making those baby steps? So something to consider. And I heard you say impact. I know we've talked about impact a couple of times. So what does impact mean to you, Padma?
Impact to me is exactly where we started this conversation from, like impacting one person. If I can
Yeah.
impact one life, I know the ripple effects of that. And I see it. I still have clients who call me from my California days, and I haven't lived in California for 10 years.
Wow.
And I don't know, right? This is where I think your warriors would really benefit to know from. We don't know the impact we're having when you help that one person. What that does to their life, we don't know. I still have clients like who share with me. They might not even come to me for coaching anymore, but from my California days, they'll send me pictures of their life, because for them it's like, wow, like I have changed someone's, like this has changed my life and I still think about you after 15 years. Like my client said to me, he sent me a photo of his family and said, I'm sending this to you because anytime I have a milestone, I want you to know like what I still think about you.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm blown away. I didn't realize the impact I was having. I don't think he realized what impact he was making in his own life. It's not about me, right? It's not about me. I want to make that very clear. It's about the choice they make, you make,
That's
to
so
better
beautiful.
your life. And that impact, like think about the impact you're having on your own self when you take that one step.
hmm Yeah, even if it's uncomfortable. I love that. That is so beautiful. And that, I mean, what you just described must be how, like a school teacher feels, right? When they hear
Yes.
from their kids when they're all grown up. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And lastly, I would love to know if you would like to share with the audience how they can find you, how they can find out more about you. Where do you hang out?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's I hang out in 3 places. I have my own podcast, which I'm going to have you come on very soon.
Yay.
It's called Create Your Vibrant Life Podcast. And LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram. On LinkedIn, you'll find me very, very putting on this hat of a CEO, I guess. But in Instagram, you'll see more of my life, like how I hang out with my kids. You'll see a lot of the failures and the wins and just the real, not that I'm not real on LinkedIn, but it's a little bit more professional. Okay, that's the word I was looking for. More
Yeah.
professional on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, and on Instagram, same Padma Ali. You can find me anywhere.
Padma Ali, PADMAALI. Thank you so much, Padma. This has just been an honor and a privilege and a huge blessing to have you here, to have you on this podcast, and to have you as a friend.
Oh, thank you, Angela. The feeling is mutual.
Thank you so much. If any of you are not watching the video of this podcast, you would know, you might even be able to tell in the voice of Padma. She's just this amazing, sweet heart energy human being that I love so much. So thank you, Padma.
Thank you, Angela. Oh, I love you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, warriors. So that concludes this episode. Thank you so much for listening. And again, if you have any questions or if you want to find Padma, look for her on Instagram or LinkedIn or her podcast, Create Your Vibrant Life. And until next time, have a good day, night, morning, wherever it is in your area of the world. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Empowered Warrior podcast. It is an honor and a privilege to have you as a listener. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast and would like to help others pave their pathway to freedom, end their disempowerment and suffering, and become an empowered warrior, please share this podcast with your friends and family. Also, it is my intention to help humanity grow and evolve to their highest potential. So if you really enjoy what you're hearing, please help me spread the word by leaving a review in iTunes. Thank you again, and I am so grateful to be able to serve you in this very exciting way.